What's up, everybody? I go by the name of Domo.
And I go by the name of Yoshiko.
We sit with entrepreneurs and artists across disciplines to share their stories, insight, and gems. Their journey will inspire you to think about community and your own narrative, how it shapes who you are, and what your legacy will be.
You're listening to No Blueprint.
No Blueprint.
To No Blueprint.
No Blueprint.
You are listening to No Blueprint.
How did the ube cheesecake come along?
Okay. So we actually did that. We did the ube cheesecake October 2013. It was the second pop-up.
Okay.
It was the pop-up after the first one. We said we're never doing that again. That was really hard. But I think, one of the things that, the process that we did was very much like just put the kids to bed and just started thinking about what would be fun to do. And then so in the Philippines, I grew up eating this ube dessert called halayat. And, it's kind of like a caramelly, soft caramel, purple yam dessert. And similar to a caramel, you have to keep stirring or it's going to burn on the bottom. So that was my job. My mom was like, okay, I put everything in, and then she would make me stand on the chair and just stir.
You always get the hardest job.
And so I just remember being I love that, and then I love cheesecake, and we're here just trying to figure out what would be fun.
Yeah.
And so I remember saying, what about ube cheesecake? And then I went on Google and I just Googled it.
Yeah.
And there was a blogger that had a recipe.
Yeah.
And I think that I found one person in New Jersey that had made it. So I went and I did the blogger's recipe, and I was like, it's okay, and then I just I said, okay, I'm not gonna make an ube cheesecake. I'm gonna try to make the best New York style vanilla cheesecake first.
Okay.
Do that. Don't try to tweak it. And when I felt like I made that, then I decided, then I started adding the ube. But then, so it took a while. It took, a couple many tries.
I don't know.
Who was eating
conceptualizing?
Who was eating these tries?
He was, and he's not a big dessert guy. And I think once I got the last one before it got the thumbs up.
Yeah.
I just made a few, cut it up in slices, and that was the dessert for the second pop up.
Nice.
And then I thought we were done. We were going to move on to the next. Every month was a different menu, right? And then people would started coming to the next few ones asking for it because they had seen it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then I started getting hit up on Facebook, hey, can I order one? Started slanging them out the house. And then after a while, it kind of got to a point where this guy was I think you might be onto something.
Yeah, it was it was almost when someone has an accidental hit song that isn't really a musician, and then they end up then they got to rush out the album.
It's a hit.
And then the next thing you know, Cardi B. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
But it was like that. It was like Bodak Purple.
Right.
Listen. Oh my God.
We may have something with that.
Yeah, none of us are professionally trained. It was just we made what we liked.
And I heard someone use the hashtag Hood Famous, and folks started using the hashtag Hood Famous.
It was Harry.
Harry Clean.
Yes.
Yeah,
Harry Clean?
I was paraphrasing. I don't think he actually said the word Hood Famous, but he said something to the effect of yeah, y'all are getting hella famous. And
shout out to Harry Clean.
Yeah, and so I playfully called it Chera's Hit, to kind of poke fun at other folks who name their desserts.
Yeah.
That includes, it always includes the word famous.
Yeah.
And their name.
Restaurants, right? Seattle's best, Seattle's supposed
Yeah.
That's funny.
Hence food and shit.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest ways that your Filipino culture inspires what y'all do?
Oh man, a lot. I think it's a driving force, and a lot of what we do in as far as every pop-up had a write-up, right? And so it was really beautiful, and Geo would do the write-up. Every month for Food and Shit was thematic, right? And so it was a way to share our personal connection to our culture, but also to talk about history and talk about politics, talk about, land. I remember when we went on this exposure trip, right? And then, and brought our kids, and we learned a lot of things, and our kids had a great time. And one of the things that stand out is the issue around heirloom rice, and how you've got these like ancestral rice that families have been planting time and time again, and then you have this big corporation Monsanto who's basically patenting this rice, saying DNA, that it's like, the DNA of the rice, and saying it's theirs, when this is ancestral, like centuries old rice that, like Philippines is known for the Banawe rice terraces, right? And then you've got these farmers who it's their rice, and they can't even like afford to buy, like they'll cultivate it and they'll sell it, but like they would buy rice from Thailand because there's this like vicious cycle of it, like one, they get sued to like harvest their own rice because it's not supposedly theirs because it's patented. So we learned a lot about like how food and land, like like a real connection, and the politics around that, to just the nostalgia of like comfort food and like growing up and being away from your homeland, and how food kind of helps you. One way, if you can't afford to go back, brings you closer to your homeland. So there's a spectrum of things that like I think the pop-up allowed us to do and message, and allowed us to share with the general public, and our culture had everything to do with that. Absolutely. Right? So it was meaningful.
Yeah, it was at the center of everything, really, which wasn't a stretch, because I think even before doing any of this food stuff publicly, we were already organizing in the community very much, promoting campaigns that had to do with any human rights, justice for what's going on in the Philippines, advocating for national democracy in the Philippines, the land rights, prior to any of the food issues, but food issues were always also connected with any of these campaigns on some level. And the most effective way to organize, even within our organizing circles, is to make sure that we're feeding ourselves. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I probably would have just been an ally to the movement if I went to like if I made it to a third meeting in a row with no food there. Absolutely, right. I would have been like, yo, this is a movement for somebody else.
I'm hungry, my stomach is growling, these meetings.
And it was actually prior to the pop-up, it was spaces like that. It was like just like family weekend, doing the same things that I grew up in the community, in Hawaii and in Bremerton, just a bunch of Filipino families getting together.
You went back to school, right?
Before, in the same year that Food and Shit started, but before, in the springtime of that same year, I dropped out. I didn't mean to drop out. I took a break when I got a full-time gig at the Wing Luke Asian Museum, and also was trying to pursue the music on the side. The music took off. I quit my job at the museum after 4 years, and it was always like, it's just one quarter. I'm gonna go back. Especially with my moms and pops in my ear all the time.
Shout out to mom and pop.
Yeah, like no matter, I go on like tours where we're like selling out venues, and I'll come back from that tour, from like a 48 city tour, and and doing well, like making enough to like be able to just like chill and provide for a while. And they'd be like, so when you going back to school?
Oh man.
So
when are you gonna get a real job?
Yeah, when you gonna get,
Yes.
but you know, in part probably due to those voices of my parents in my head, and hearing that and knowing everything that they work hard for on one hand, but also just for myself on a personal level, just on some like, yo, finish what you started.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
don't let not only other people sacrifice, but your time and effort that you sacrifice get you to a halfway point, or to a almost finished point, to a 99% downloaded, and then you press power and turn it off. Like you just don't do that. It's a personal philosophy thing. So shout out to all the people at UW who remain connected with your boy and kept checking in with me. Everyone from like Dr. Rick Bonus.
Shout out to Bonus.
Yeah, the homie Third, who was teaching the chick class, who was always in my ear, to you know, everybody up in the ECC, the OMA, who cumulatively like all passed me information that made it so that in 2013 I found out like some of the requirements had been dropped.
Yeah.
And that I would be given any assistance and help that I needed to make sure that I could graduate with the minimal amount of time.
If UW FASA just celebrated their centennial, and Filipinos have been in the Northwest for over 100 years, I'm sure your parents heard from other folks of just like, did he finish? Did he go to UW?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Put the full court press.
No, it was funny, man. We had I had my graduation party. I'm here, like I'm 33 years old, having a college graduation
we had
party.
The best graduation
and
party.
my parents went all out. They cooked like so much food, and they treated it as if like I was 22. They bought me like hella. Not just them too, but the entire family. But like I was stacked up to my ears in Lays.
Yeah.
Especially the ones made out of $1 and $20 bills.
There it is.
You bring in all types of memories from 2013. that was just a pivotal year, I think, in all our lives. And it took, even though, like we said earlier, about our whole backstory of meeting when we were younger. We've been together for a long time, but it really wasn't until the food thing. Even when we were both organizing, we weren't ever in the same organization. Like I was in Anakbayan and she was in Gabriella. And we would work on the same campaigns, but like in different organizations. And we obviously collaborate on parenting. Like that is a definite collaborative project. But as far as something like that's an actual day-to-day public creative outlet thing, it took us like more than half of our lives to get to a point with the food and shit and the bake shop where we're channeling a lot of our energy creatively, and all the strengths that come with the relationship, and then all the challenges that come with it too, and how to like compartmentalize and separate from running a business, a project like this as a business.
Absolutely.
All culminated in that year, and the finishing school did have something to do with it. The fact that it was our 10-year anniversary had a lot to do with it. Where the neighborhood was at, I feel like maybe this, with all the changes that was going on and still going on in the city, you could look back now 5 years and be like, yo, that was both the end of an era for a kind of Seattle, and the beginning of a new thing, or at least like the transitional period. So many people who live in parts of the city in 2013 are no longer there. Us ourselves included. And it's crazy to think that was 5 years ago, because it feels like it wasn't that long ago.
It feels like it was last year.
But at the same time, when you see how much has changed, it's almost like a whole different city. Not a whole different, but like it's like a bizarro world like we're living in the bizarro world version of what it was then.
Absolutely.
Like everything that's happening now, if you would have told me was gonna happen back in 2013, on one hand I'll be like, I can see it going that direction, but I still would have been shocked to have known that it would turn out this way.
Yeah, that's real. How did y'all end up in Ballard?
Oh man, we got asked that a lot actually, and I think we try to ask a lot of folks that we respected and had just had lots of experience in the food industry. What can you share with us? Like, given that this industry has one of the highest failure rates in business. I think it's like over 80% of businesses fail, food businesses fail. And I'm like, I quit my state job. We've got 2 kids. And it's not like, he's some tech dude making, like we're both self-employed. And so I was really worried. So we would ask a lot of, just ask some folks. And I remember having the opportunity to sit down with Chef Roy Choi down in LA. And we were lucky enough to be invited to do a pop-up at Pot at the Line Hotel there. Super fun. And as a part of the preparation, we had an opportunity just to sit down for dinner, and I just asked him about his experience. And I just remember something that he said. He goes, don't be afraid to just start small, and that don't worry about all the making the place look fancy or just grow and make sure that you guys have your own brand. You don't have to go and buy somebody's restaurant. You don't have to go and take out this $200,000 loan, which we had seen friends who were in the food industry also struggling with it. And I think what the public doesn't see, or folks that aren't on the back end business of food, because it's such a hospitality industry, when everyone's having fun, we're working usually, right? Or it's very much a service industry. We're serving folks. And so we were looking around for a couple years and wanted to obviously be in our neighborhood. We were in Beacon Hill, right? We started off. We couldn't find anything in the neighborhood that was really something that we could afford. There was definitely low rent places, but you had to have a lot of capital to bring it up to code, or it didn't have the kitchen, or it didn't have the hood, or there's a lot of and there's not a lot of places even on Beacon Hill. Real estate was really in general. Right. And so I remember going online, and a friend had connected me with a broker who was had done a lot of work with other small businesses, knew about Chinatown ID businesses, and we were like, oh, we want let's look there, and then she started kind of giving us some places that we can look at, but I was like, man, can't afford these. Looked online, and I found this 500 square foot built out kitchen in Ballard, of all places, but it was a basement underneath a bar. And I said, it literally was a box. It wasn't pretty. But I emailed our broker, and I was like, can you show us this spot? So we went in, and I just looked at Geo, and I'm like, what do you think?
And I was like, nah.
It's not pretty. But if you know anything about the food industry, to go into a spot where A, you don't have to buy anybody out, B, everything's there, you've got all the permits ready to go, the use of it is for a kitchen, and it's in a decent location. Rent, surprisingly, was affordable.
Wow.
And then all we had to do was put in an oven and refrigerators and shelves and a baker's table, really. And so we thought about it because we were like, do we want to go to Ballard, right? And I just remember hearing a lot of the advice of people and just like, just start small, build. And so we pulled, we said yes. And then it ended up being, I think, one of the best decisions that we've done for the business because we were able to keep overhead low.
Yep.
We were still able to, have a staff that that was manageable, and then grow slowly from there. And
Absolutely.
so, and then that was all. And the plan is always to come back south.
That's what's up. Yeah, even speaking of the building code thing, I know that's something we spoke about with Chef Tarek too. It's just like
Yeah.
waiting on Black and Tea. Waiting on Black and Tea.
Yeah.
And then when we spoke about doing the podcast, you told me it's a good time to reflect on it because if I would have asked you to do it a year ago, it would have been a completely different story.
Yeah.
What happened in year one, and then what happened in year two to change the story?
Yeah. Year one, I feel bad. I kind of left Chera like high and dry when I couldn't take it no more. And I was like, I need to be in the back. Because at one point I was like not only doing a lot of the maintenance up there and, I was a big part of the build out. I would say it was a family effort. We didn't hire no contractors. A lot of that equipment, like me, Chera's dad, Chera's brothers, brought in ourselves, installed ourselves.
That's dope.
There were some things that the professionals did, but at that point I had been so far removed from a lot of the other creative outlets I was in, from the music and writing to the photography to even food and shit itself, like the other food part, the other side of this food hustle. And I felt like, although the business itself might take a hit, I felt like we're up and running. Now is a good time for me to not be working the counter, to ease back. Like let's actually build a team, or like give more responsibility to the team. Same with Chera and her roles, and let me do what I do best, and which will indirectly help the business as well.
This is a podcast about entrepreneurship.
Yes, absolutely.
And I spent some time watching a lot of the episodes and stuff, and I think one of the things is we all need to be inspired.
Absolutely.
And no one should ever tell us oh, that's going to be too hard, don't do it. But at the same time, I think folks should really, really internalize that it is not a glamorous life. I think in this Instagram world, right, you see brands that will make you think, oh, the owner's on the beach all the time, or just having so much this grand life, and there's a lot of perks to working for yourself, and I think it would be really hard for me to work a 9 to 5 after starting a business, but it is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I think it is constant choices, and those choices not only impact you but impact if you have a staff. It is constantly putting your own values to the table at every decision that you make, because in in a small way, every business owner is a small capitalist.
Absolutely.
And having had a consciousness and understanding and a political viewpoint for so long, and then being a business owner, is nowhere near like, we talk about this, like capitalism in its onset was actually revolutionary in its time, right? From the society and like that it was coming from, but it's when it started becoming monopolized, right? Monopoly capitalism fucked everything up. But to like work for yourself and employ other people and like earn a living in a small scale, there's really, that's what drives our economy, right? So I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is that it isn't as glamorous, and I think like I really encourage folks. I think we all need to try to figure out a way to be our own small business, even if it's like consulting on the side or whatever. There's so many benefits for communities of color to understand the power in holding kind of even like a microeconomy, or holding your own, valuing your own labor, because we're so creative, and oftentimes our creativity gets exploited for the benefit and the profit of other folks, and so that are more well capitalized or whatnot. But on the flip side, when Geo was talking about like it's really hard, and so I try to talk to a lot of other folks in the food industry too, and a lot of POCs, like just because we need each other, and we need to support one another, collaborate, and like understand that it's not easy, but it can be done. Absolutely. And like it's one of those things, like it's like the mother that like says, oh, mothering's so great, and so, but really like they're like having a really hard, like I was always that mother that wanted to be like, it is freaking hard.
With so much community and so many homies that look up to y'all, how do you navigate the homie hookup and the homie that's like, but I've been there forever, let me just slide me a couple of Ube cheesecakes. Can you come to the party and bring a couple of them cheesecakes through?
It's a good problem. It is. I've had to deal with this on an even grander scale with the music thing. Guest list. What's up with the guest list? What's up? Right. And it's flattering, but at the same time, I think you do got to be real with folks and let them know that this is, you're not. I'm sure we know we have homies that are like doctors. We're not hitting up like our doctor cousins. Like, hey man, can you do the surgery on me real quick?
Yeah, get this done.
Yeah.
We donate a lot. I mean, I think it's come to the point where I think I said yes to every donation that was asked of us for the first few years.
I was about to say, are you still saying yes to every donation?
But it is coming to a point where, I got a request this morning to donate to a 9 Lives cat organization, and it's it just kind of gives you the extent of like the spectrum of
it'll be great exposure for Hood Famous Bakers.
And that's important. Like the thing is, like, everybody's got their important thing to them, right? Yeah. And I think what we're doing now is I would really encourage other business owners who have kind of a donation policy to do this, because I wish we did this early on. It was more of a unofficial thing, but to officialize, like, what are the main organizations or the main things that you find important to you and as an organization, and that you just be clear and you communicate. These are, I find, youth, women's issues or whatever it is, and this is what we're prioritizing, and we have a budget for any given month or quarter or year. And once that's up, it's up.
That is a
And-
gem.
And like
gem.
we're even coming to the point where because we have such a small staff that I can't like respond to all the donation requests in a timely manner, that we're going to say all donation requests are going to be reviewed at this week, and everybody will be notified the week after for our donation, like whatever, for this quarter. And it seems like super, I don't know, like institutionalized, but in all honesty, when you talk about, you know, the balance of our own like work-life balance, our own mental health, our own, like when you're in a position to give and you want to give, but you can only give so much, like I think it's just the more honest and clear you can communicate what you can give and be forthright in that, just like a relationship. Just be like, man, this is what I can give. Right. And like that honesty can go a long way. And
I'm tapped out. Stop asking.
And
me
like
for
the
stuff.
people that are organized enough to ask early will benefit from that. Like somebody who's asking, can I get this hookup, or can I get this donation, like, you know, this Friday?
Right.
Like, I can't, you know, unfortunately, we've already made that decision last month.
It's an automatic nah.
Absolutely.
And
What's next for Hood Famous Bakeshop and Food and Shit, and how can people stay in touch?
Ooh. Well, we've got something really, really exciting that's coming out this fall. We aren't quite ready to publicly announce, but we're excited to expand.
Okay. All right.
And that's pretty much most of it. And it does take so much work behind the scenes to even set yourself up to do so. So it's always been part of the plan, you know, as much as Ballard is starting to be a stable thing, and it's still at a point where it's growing. It's, you know, we want to see more spaces and more reflections of the different ideas that we have for what the bake shop could be. And then Food and Shit, we just had the first pop-up in almost 2 years. Shout out to the Heyday crew in Mount Baker, Leschi, wherever that borderline of those two neighborhoods are, but they let us in and do our thing. And it's planned to be a one-off. There's nothing else on the calendar for Food and Shit, but that night and that venue was magical. And I did wake up I usually wake up the next morning after a pop-up like, all right, I don't want to do this for a while. But I woke up the next morning thinking about the possibility of doing another one if the time was right. But in the meantime, I'm going to use Food and Shit as a platform to just support community events. Like I just did a catered for a studio tour for Chera Northwest and the Sudakawa family over the past weekend. I'm going to be collaborating with, hopefully, there's been a Food and Shit feast collaboration in the making for a long time.
Shout out to Feast.
Shout out to Feast. And you'll be hearing more about that as more planning comes together. Totem Star as well. Pac. Shout out to Pac and Totem again, and then to Totem Star. We've been talking about doing something, bringing music and youth and food together. So that's where Food and Shit is going to continue. It might.
He was like, "It's nothing. There's nothing."
I know.
And then as for Hood Famous Bakeshop, I think has a good, thriving social media presence. And shout out to my sister Janelle, who plays a big role in that, and Chera and her voice and personality that plays into that. And I'm here in the background just like feeling like a proud grandparent because I was there in the initial stages of like setting the branding in motion.
Nice.
I don't even like saying the word branding, but you know, gotta say what it is. It's a very tightly, not tight, but good communication. That's a good reflection of who we are. Absolutely. And what we're trying to do. Food and Shit goes in and out of, because I had run it myself, and then I definitely did get social media fatigue. I lurk and keep up with what other people are up to. But if you want to keep up with what I'm up to, I guess you can follow me on Prometheus Brown, all these things, but you're not going to get much. Follow the people that I hang out with and see on a daily and weekly basis, and you might see me pop up on their feed. Whether that's, I don't know. Definitely Hood Famous Bakeshop. In the meantime, if you don't hear from me, just know that I'm out there at my homies' events, playing a supportive role.
Absolutely, and we appreciate you. We appreciate y'all, both of y'all. We appreciate your time for sure. And so thank y'all both so much. Yes,
thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
If you liked what you heard, be sure to donate so we can keep going. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube, so be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. You have no idea how much it helps. We also want to know what you think. You can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can even use the hashtag #NoBlueprint. And if you're really down with the movement, you can join our Patreon account and become a patron, where you'll get exclusive content and limited edition merchandise. No Blueprint is powered by Ambassador Stories. We share stories of the people, places, and spaces that bring soul to our communities. No Blueprint is recorded at Ambassador Stories Studios and co-produced with me, Maiwa Aina. Hear more episodes of No Blueprint and get official No Blueprint merchandise at noblueprintpodcast.com.